Rain batters against the windows of St. Mary's Hospital in Boston, where Sarah Chen stands motionless in the doorway of room 342. Her hands are steady. They've always been steady, perfect for her work as a trauma surgeon. But tonight, they're steady for a different reason. On the bed lies her husband, Michael, or what's left of him after the Rossi family decided he knew too much. The heart monitor's flat tone feels distant, almost peaceful. A stark contrast to the storm raging inside her. Time of death 23:47, a nurse announces, her voice cracking slightly. Sarah notices it's Amy, the same nurse who attended their hospital Christmas party last year. The one who laughed at Michael's terrible jokes and brought homemade cookies for the staff. Sarah doesn't flinch, doesn't cry. Instead, she thinks about the scalpel in her pocket, the one she was supposed to use for an emergency tracheotomy today. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The one that never got used because she was too busy trying to save her own husband's life. Her fingers brush against it, and for the first time in her 15 years as a surgeon, Sarah Chen thinks about how a medical instrument could be used to end lives instead of saving them. Behind her, Dr. Patterson, the chief of surgery, places a gentle hand on her shoulder. Sarah, you need to go home. There's nothing more you can do here. His voice is kind, concerned. The voice he uses with families of patients who didn't make it. She's heard it countless times from the other side of the conversation. Never thought she'd hear it directed at her. I need to document his injuries, she says, her voice clinical, detached. She steps closer to the bed. Photographers flash burning after images in her vision as hospital security documents everything for the police. Multiple gunshot wounds, systematic torture. They wanted information, and they took their time getting it. The Rossis were never known for their mercy. 3 days earlier, the morning sun streams through the windows of the Chen household in suburban Boston, casting long shadows across their recently renovated kitchen. Michael Chen, a forensic accountant with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, adjusts his tie while Sarah flips pancakes on their new induction stovetop. Their routine is a well-choreographed dance they've perfected over 8 years of marriage. Another boring day of following money trails, Sarah teases, sliding a plate of blueberry pancakes across their granite countertop. The recipe is from Michael's mother, one of the few things she'd given them before disappearing back to Seattle, disapproving of her son marrying a woman who chose career over traditional family values. Michael's smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. Something like that. Though this one might be different. He hesitates, fork hovering over his breakfast. Remember the Rossi family cases I mentioned? Sarah nods, thinking back to their conversations about Boston's most notorious crime family. The Rossis, who run everything from construction companies to nightclubs, all while maintaining a veneer of legitimacy. They're the kind of people who get invited to charity galas and have politicians on speed dial. The kind who make problems disappear without leaving traces. I think I found something, Michael continues, lowering his voice despite being in their own home. A pattern in their international transfers. It's bigger than we thought. Way bigger. We're talking hundreds of millions, maybe billions, flowing through shell companies across 3 continents. Sarah notices the slight tremor in his hand as he reaches for his coffee. In 8 years of marriage, she's never seen him nervous about a case. Should you be telling me this? Probably not, he admits. But I've got a meeting with the task force today. After that, everything changes. He checks his watch, a 5th anniversary gift from Sarah, and stands, leaving half his breakfast untouched. I should go. Don't want to be late. Sarah catches his arm as he passes, pulling him down for a kiss. Be careful, okay? Always am. He grabs his briefcase and heads for the door, then pauses. Hey, don't forget. Dinner at Lucia's tonight, 8 o'clock. Our anniversary deserves that carbonara you love. Sarah watches him leave, unaware that this ordinary morning will be their last together. She doesn't notice the black SUV parked across the street, or the man inside photographing their goodbye kiss. She doesn't know that in the Rossi family's downtown office, Michael's name is being discussed in a room where decisions about life and death are made with the same casualness as business investments. Instead, she heads to St. Mary's Hospital for her shift, thoughts already turning to the surgeries scheduled for the day. In the operating room, Sarah is known for her exceptional calm under pressure. Her colleagues joke that she must have ice in her veins, the way she handles even the most challenging traumas without breaking a sweat. Even during last month's massive pileup on the interstate, when other surgeons' hands were shaking after hours of emergency procedures, Sarah remained perfectly composed. They're right about one thing. Sarah Chen is exceptional, but they don't know about her past. Before medical school, before becoming Dr. Chen, there was another Sarah, the daughter of a Hong Kong police officer who made sure his little girl could protect herself in a dangerous world. The teenager who spent years training in her uncle's martial arts school, learning techniques that went far beyond self-defense. The young woman who walked away from that life, choosing to save lives instead of learning ways to end them. Now, as she scrubs in for her first surgery of the day, a routine appendectomy on a 12-year-old boy, Sarah has no idea that both worlds are about to collide in ways she never imagined. That by sunset, her carefully constructed life will shatter, and those forgotten skills will resurface with a vengeance that will shake Boston's criminal underworld to its core. She doesn't know that in less than 72 hours, she'll be standing in room 342, looking at her husband's body, and making a decision that will set her on a path of revenge that will make the Rossi family wish they'd never heard the name Chen. In the Rossi family's downtown office, 30 floors above Boston's financial district, Vincent Rossi sits in his leather chair, examining photographs spread across his mahogany desk. The morning light filtering through bulletproof windows catches the silver in his perfectly trimmed hair. At 62, he still maintains the physique of a man 20 years younger, though his eyes carry the weight of decades spent building and protecting his empire. "You're certain about this?" he asks, tapping one photo. Michael Chen entering the FBI building. Marco Rossi, his youngest son and head of their problem-solving department, stands by the window. At 35, he's already earned a reputation for efficiency that makes even hardened criminals nervous. The forensic accountant's been digging deep. He's found traces of the Singapore transfers. Vincent's jaw tightens. The Singapore operation represents nearly $2 billion in carefully laundered funds. Years of meticulous planning, countless politicians and officials bought, all threatened by one persistent accountant who doesn't know when to stop looking. "Remember what happened with the Martinez situation?" Marco continues, his voice carrying a hint of their mother's Sicilian accent. "We hesitated. Cost us 3 operations and 2 good soldiers." Vincent studies another photo, Michael and Sarah Chen at their front door that morning. Such an ordinary moment. A goodbye kiss between husband and wife. He has a wife, a surgeon at St. Mary's. Dr. Sarah Chen, Marco confirms, sliding another file across the desk. Born in Hong Kong, moved to the States at 12. Full scholarship to Johns Hopkins. Brilliant trauma surgeon by all accounts. No children, no other family in Boston. Clean? Squeaky. Volunteers at free clinics. Serves on hospital committees. Model citizen. Vincent picks up the photo again, something about the woman's posture catching his eye. There's a precision to her movements, even in this casual moment, that reminds him of someone. He can't quite place it. "The task force meets at 2, Marco says. "If Chen presents his findings." "Take care of it," Vincent interrupts. "Quietly. Make sure we know what he's found and who he's told. Then make it look random. Street crime gone wrong. Boston's got enough of that these days." Marco nods and heads for the door, but Vincent calls after him. "And Marco?" "Leave the wife alone. No loose ends, but no unnecessary complications." Across town, in the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, Michael Chen sits at his desk, surrounded by monitors displaying complex financial flowcharts. His colleague, Special Agent Diana Rodriguez, perches on the edge of his desk, coffee in hand. "You look like hell, Chen," she observes. "Another late night?" Michael rubs his eyes. He hasn't slept properly in days, not since he found the pattern in the Rossi family's transactions. "Had to be sure. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. You know what happens if we move on this and I'm wrong. Diana's expression darkens. She's lost partners before. The Rossis have a way of making problems disappear, along with anyone investigating them. And it's solid, he says, pulling up a series of transactions on his main screen. Look at these transfers. Every third Thursday, exactly 12 minutes after markets close in Singapore. Shell companies that exist for precisely 24 hours. It's beautiful, in a twisted way. How much? 2 billion minimum, maybe more. He lowers his voice. Diana, this isn't just money laundering. These patterns, they match intel about weapons shipments, military-grade stuff. Someone's arming up, and the Rossis are the bank. Diana whistles low. Jesus, Chen. No wonder you look scared. Not scared, he corrects her, though his fingers drum nervously on his desk. Just careful. I've got everything backed up, multiple locations. If anything happens... Don't, Diana cuts him off. Nothing's going to happen. We've got the task force meeting in 3 hours. By tonight, we'll have surveillance on every Rossi property in New England. Michael nods, but his hand strays to his phone. There's a text from Sarah. Don't forget, Lucia's at 8. Love you. He starts typing a response, then stops. Better to tell her in person tonight. Tell her everything. Maybe even discuss the possibility of witness protection, just in case. She'll understand. She always does. Outside the FBI building, a janitor pushes his cart into a service elevator. Once the doors close, he pulls out a burner phone and dials a number. He's still here, the man reports. Meetings at 2, 4th floor conference room. Marco Rossi's voice comes through clearly. Good. Keep watching. Text me when he leaves. The janitor pockets the phone and resumes his rounds. Just another invisible worker in a building full of people too busy to notice him. Just as he doesn't notice the traffic camera across the street, or the fact that its footage feeds directly to a secure server that Sarah Chen will later spend weeks searching through, looking for the exact moment when her husband's fate was sealed. The afternoon sun casts long shadows through the windows of St. Mary's Hospital's operating room 3, where Sarah Chen is elbow-deep in a complex thoracic surgery. Her patient, a 60-year-old woman with a dissecting aortic aneurysm, lies unconscious on the table as Sarah's skilled hands work to prevent the inevitable. BP's dropping, announces the anesthesiologist. Sarah doesn't look up. Push another unit of blood. We're almost there. Her fingers move with practiced precision, each motion deliberate and sure. This is where she feels most in control, most herself. In the OR, life and death dance on the edge of a scalpel, and Sarah Chen is the choreographer. Dr. Chen, a nurse calls from the doorway. There's a Detective Wallace here to see you. Says it's urgent. Little busy right now, Sarah responds, her focus unwavering. Tell him to wait. The nurse hesitates. He says it's about your husband. Sarah's hands don't shake. They never shake, but something cold settles in her stomach. 20 minutes, she says. Tell him 20 minutes. 19 minutes later, Sarah steps out of the OR, surgical cap still on, to find Detective James Wallace waiting. She recognizes him. They've crossed paths before when he's interviewed victims at the hospital. He's known for his compassion, which is exactly why the sight of him standing there, shifting uncomfortably, makes her blood run cold. Dr. Chen, he starts, then stops, searching for words. Just tell me, she says, her voice surprisingly steady. There was an incident downtown, a shooting. Wallace swallows hard. Your husband, he's being brought in. It's bad, doctor. The world doesn't spin. The floor doesn't drop out from under her. Instead, everything becomes crystal clear, like the moment before she makes a critical incision. Where? They're routing him to Trauma 1, ETA 3 minutes. Sarah's already moving, stripping off her contaminated scrubs as she walks. Her mind races through possibilities. GSWs, blood loss, organ damage. She can fix those. She can fix anything if she gets to it in time. The trauma bay doors burst open as paramedics wheel Michael in. Sarah freezes for a split second, her trained eye taking in every detail. Multiple gunshot wounds, chest, abdomen, extremities, blood-soaked bandages, torture marks visible through the torn clothing. Male, 42, multiple GSWs, the paramedic rattles off. BP 6040, pulse thready, lost consciousness en route. Dr. Patterson appears at her side. Sarah, you can't work on him. You know the rules. Like hell I can't, she starts, but Patterson grabs her arm. Look at him, he says firmly. Really look. You know what this is. And she does. The systematic nature of the wounds. The careful placement of each injury to cause maximum pain while prolonging death. This wasn't a random shooting. This was a message. Or two is prepped, Patterson continues. Let me try to save him. Sarah stands frozen as they wheel Michael away, her mind cataloging every detail with clinical precision. The angle of the wounds, the patterns of bruising, the subtle signs that tell a story of his last hours. Detective Wallace appears beside her. Dr. Chen. Sarah, I need to ask you some questions. Not now. It's important. Was Michael working on anything sensitive? Did he mention any threats? Sarah's about to answer when her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Our condolences on your loss, Doctor. Chen. A tragedy. Best to leave it at that. She stares at the message, something shifting inside her. The Sarah Chen who took an oath to do no harm begins to recede, and something else, something that's been dormant since her days in Hong Kong, starts to wake up. Dr. Chen? Wallace prompts. No, she lies smoothly. Nothing unusual. Just a normal day. Wallace studies her face. You know this wasn't random. I know. If you think of anything at all, call me. He hands her his card. And Sarah? Don't do anything. Foolish? She manages a small, bitter smile. I'm a surgeon, detective. We don't do foolish things. As Wallace walks away, Sarah's phone buzzes again. Another text, different number. A shame about Michael. But remember, you still have a life, a career. Don't waste it asking questions. Sarah deletes both messages. Then she walks to her office, closes the door, and opens her laptop. Her fingers fly across the keyboard as she accesses the hospital's security footage, starting with the cameras covering the approaches to the FBI building. She might be just a surgeon now, but her father didn't raise a fool. And Uncle Chen didn't spend 6 years teaching her martial arts so she could forget everything at the first sign of trouble. The Rossis think they're sending her a message. They don't realize they've just declared war on someone who knows exactly where to cut to make it hurt the most. The basement of St. Mary's Hospital houses a rarely used morgue, its fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow over stainless steel surfaces. It's 3 a.m., and Sarah Chen stands over a computer terminal, security footage playing silently on the screen. She's been here for hours, her surgical shift long since ended, watching the same sequences over and over. The footage shows 6 different angles of the street where Michael was taken. A black SUV, 3 men, professional, efficient. But they made one mistake. One of them touched a mailbox, palm flat against the metal for balance as he checked around a corner. A perfect print if she can get to it before the morning rain washes it away. Dr. Chen? The voice startles her. It's Ryan, one of the night shift security guards. Didn't expect anyone down here at this hour. Sarah minimizes the footage smoothly. Just catching up on paperwork. Quiet place to think. I'm sorry about your husband, Ryan says, shifting uncomfortably. The police were asking about security footage earlier. Did you give it to them? Some of it. He hesitates. Look, Doctor. Chen. I know you probably shouldn't see this, but he slides a USB drive onto the desk. The camera on Jefferson Street, the one they didn't ask about. Sometimes it catches things the others miss. Sarah studies Ryan's face. He's worked here for 15 years. She saved his daughter's life last year after a car accident. Some debts run deep. Thank you, Ryan. I never saw this. Saw what? He turns to leave. then pauses. Dr. Chen, my cousin works at Golden Tiger, in Chinatown. If you ever need anything, just ask for Uncle Wei. Sarah watches him go, understanding the layers in that simple message. Golden Tiger isn't just a restaurant. It's an old-school Tong headquarters, where certain kinds of help can be found for the right price. Once she's alone again, Sarah inserts the drive. The new angle shows something the others missed, a reflection in a shop window, a clear view of one man's face as he makes a call. She freezes the frame, enhancing it slowly. The image is grainy but usable. Another piece of the puzzle. Her phone buzzes. A text from Diana Rodriguez, Michael's FBI partner. Need to talk, not on phone. Cafe Nero, 6 a.m. Sarah checks her watch. 2 hours. Enough time for what she needs to do next. She pulls on her coat and heads for the hospital's rarely used back exit, the one that doesn't have cameras. The night air is crisp, carrying the promise of rain. Perfect for washing away evidence, and perfect for hunting. The mailbox is still there, untouched on the corner of Bradford and 3rd. Sarah approaches it casually, surgical gloves already on her hands. From her pocket, she takes a small evidence collection kit, something borrowed from the hospital's forensics department. Uncle Chen's first lesson: proper preparation prevents poor performance. The print lifts cleanly, a perfect spiral pattern on clear tape. Sarah photographs it with her phone, using an app Michael had shown her once. It connects to some database he'd never fully explained. The search starts running immediately. Her next stop is a 24-hour locksmith in Chinatown. The old man behind the counter looks up as she enters, his eyes sharp despite the late hour. Doctor? Chen. He greets her in Cantonese. Your uncle said you might come. Sarah switches to Cantonese easily. News travels fast. In our world, always. He disappears into the back room, returning with a small package. Your father left this for you. Said to give it to you if you ever asked about the old ways again. The package is heavy, wrapped in oilcloth. Sarah doesn't need to open it to know what's inside. The weight is familiar, like the one her father carried when he was on duty in Hong Kong. There's no going back from this path, the old man warns. Once you step onto it, they killed my husband, Sarah replies simply. He nods, understanding. Then you'll need these too. He slides a set of keys across the counter. Storage unit, your father's insurance policy, everything you might need. Sarah's phone buzzes again. The fingerprint search is complete. A name appears. Anthony Rossi, Marco's right-hand man, known for his efficiency in dealing with problems. One more thing, the locksmith says as she turns to leave. Your uncle always said you were his best student. Better than your father, better than anyone. He'll be glad to know you haven't forgotten. Sarah steps back into the night, the package secure under her coat. Her phone shows 5:30 a.m. Time to meet Diana, to learn what she knows. Then the real work begins. The doctor who took an oath to do no harm died with her husband. What emerged from that operating room is something else entirely. Something born from the intersection of surgical precision and ancient arts, of Western medicine and Eastern discipline. The Rossis thought they were tying up loose ends. Instead, they've unleashed something they never saw coming. The rain finally begins to fall, washing away the last traces of Dr. Sarah Chen, leaving behind only the weapon her father and uncle spent years forging, just in case she ever needed it. The morning fog clings to Boston streets like a shroud as Sarah approaches Cafe Nero. She's been awake for 26 hours straight, but fatigue is a distant concern. The weight of her father's gun, secured in a custom holster beneath her jacket, keeps her alert. 3 blocks before the cafe, she takes a circuitous route checking for tails, another of Uncle Chen's lessons. Paranoia, he used to say, is just good planning in disguise. The cafe is nearly empty at 6 a.m., save for a few early morning commuters clutching their coffee cups like lifelines. Diana Rodriguez sits in the far corner, back to the wall, scanning every face that enters. Her FBI training never really turns off, especially not now. When Sarah slides into the seat across from her, Diana almost doesn't recognize her. Something's changed in those few hours. Something fundamental. "You look terrible," Diana says, pushing a coffee across the table. Her hands shake slightly. She hasn't slept either. "Have you slept?" Sleep is for people whose husbands haven't been tortured to death. Sarah's voice is flat, clinical. Her surgeon's eyes note Diana's dilated pupils, the slight tremor in her hands. "Tell me what you know." Diana glances around before sliding a manila envelope across the table. Her voice drops to barely a whisper. "Michael found something big. He was supposed to present it at the task force meeting, but he never made it there. I've been digging all night. Half these files weren't in the official investigation." "The Singapore connections," Sarah says. It's not a question. She remembers Michael's last breakfast, the way his hand trembled around his coffee cup. Diana's eyes narrow. "How did you—" "He mentioned something yesterday morning. Not details, just hints." Sarah opens the envelope, scanning documents with practiced efficiency. Crime scene photos spill out. She forces herself to look at each one, memorizing the details of what they did to Michael. $2 billion in weapons. Who's buying? That's the thing. It's not just weapons. Look at the pattern. Diana points to a series of transactions, dates circled in red. Medical equipment, high-end stuff, biological containment units, things you'd need for biological weapons research, Sarah finishes, her medical training filling in the blanks. They're building something. Michael figured it out yesterday morning. He was going to... Diana stops, her face darkening. "I should have gone with him. Should have known they were watching. The surveillance photos were in his desk. They'd been following him for weeks." Sarah studies a particular transfer document, her mind racing. The serial numbers trigger a memory. "These equipment specifications, they're wrong." "What do you mean?" "These containment units, they're not for weapons research. They're for organ transport." Sarah taps the paper. "I know because we use similar systems at St. Mary's. The temperature controls, the preservation protocols, these are designed for human tissue transport. Someone's creating a high-end black market organ trafficking operation." Diana sits back, stunned. "Jesus, how many? Based on this equipment? They could process hundreds of donations per month, each organ worth hundreds of thousands on the black market." Sarah's voice remains steady, but her fingers tighten on the paper. "That's what Michael found. Not just money laundering. They're building an industrial-scale murder operation. These shipping manifests, they're moving medical supplies through every major port on the East Coast." A barista approaches their table, but Diana waves her away with a practiced gesture. Sarah notices the girl's face reflect in the window behind them, memorizing it just in case. In her new reality, everyone is a potential threat. "Sarah, listen to me." Diana leans forward, her voice urgent. "You need to let us handle this, the Bureau." "Like you handled protecting Michael." The words come out sharp, cutting. Sarah pulls out another document from the envelope, an internal FBI memo about surveillance on the Rossi family, dated 2 days before Michael's death. "We've got a task force, protection details. We can—" "Who's on the task force?" Sarah interrupts. "What? Names? I want every name of every person who knew about Michael's discovery. Every agent, every analyst, every supervisor." Diana hesitates, then understanding dawns. "You think there's a leak?" "I know there's a leak. They knew exactly when to grab him. Knew his route. That doesn't happen without inside help." Sarah pulls out her phone, showing Diana the enhanced security footage. Anthony Rossi. Marco's enforcer. This was professional, coordinated. They had help. Someone who knew about Michael's meeting schedule, his investigation. Everything. "Even if you're right." Diana leans forward, lowering her voice. "Sarah, these people, they're not just criminals. They're connected, protected. The Rossis have judges in their pockets, cops on their payroll. You can't just watch me." Sarah stands, gathering the documents. The morning light catches her wedding ring. She twists it once, then removes it, placing it in her pocket. One more thing. Michael had a backup drive. Where is it? We haven't found it, not at his office, not at your house. Whatever he found, he hid it well. Sarah nods, unsurprised. Michael was always careful. Too careful, maybe. If she were him, where would she hide something that could get her killed? Outside, the morning sun is breaking through the clouds. Sarah checks her phone. A message from the hospital administration about bereavement leave. They're giving her 2 weeks. More than enough time. Her next stop is a safety deposit box at Boston First National. Not her bank. This account is under her maiden name, set up years ago on her father's advice. Inside is everything she needs. Cash, alternate ID, and a key to a storage unit in Quincy. As she drives to Quincy, her mind catalogs the players. Vincent Rossi, the patriarch, with his politicians in his pocket. Marco, the brutal enforcer who ordered Michael's death. Anthony, the hands-on killer whose fingerprints she now has. And somewhere in the FBI, a traitor who signed Michael's death warrant. The storage unit is small, climate-controlled. Inside, she finds what her father left her. Weapons, ammunition, burner phones. Everything a Hong Kong cop might need if things went bad. Everything his daughter might need to rain hell on the people who destroyed her life. Sarah's phone buzzes. Another text from an unknown number. Last warning, doctor. Chen. Walk away. Live your life. Some questions shouldn't be answered. She smiles, a cold expression that would terrify her hospital colleagues if they saw it. They're right. Dr. Chen has questions that shouldn't be answered. But she's not Dr. Chen anymore. She's her father's daughter. Her uncle's student. And she's got some questions for the Rossi family that they're really not going to enjoy answering. Cafe Nero is nearly empty at 6 a.m., save for a few early morning commuters clutching their coffee cups. Diana Rodriguez sits in the far corner, back to the wall, scanning every face that enters. Her FBI training never really turns off, especially not now. When Sarah slides into the seat across from her, Diana almost doesn't recognize her. Something's changed in those few hours. Something fundamental. You look terrible, Diana says, pushing a coffee across the table. Have you slept? Sleep is for people whose husbands haven't been tortured to death. Sarah's voice is flat, clinical. Tell me what you know. Diana glances around before sliding a manila envelope across the table. Michael found something big. He was supposed to present it at the task force meeting, but he never made it there. The Singapore connections, Sarah says. It's not a question. Diana's eyes narrow. How did you... He mentioned something yesterday morning. Not details, just hints. Sarah opens the envelope, scanning documents with practiced efficiency. 2 billion in weapons. Who's buying? That's the thing. It's not just weapons. Look at the pattern. Diana points to a series of transactions. Medical equipment, high-end stuff, biological containment units, things you'd need for biological weapons research. Sarah finishes, her medical training filling in the blanks. They're building something. Michael figured it out yesterday morning. He was going to... Diana stops, her face darkening. I should have gone with him. Should have known they were watching. Sarah studies a particular transfer document, her mind racing. These equipment specifications, they're wrong. What do you mean? These containment units, they're not for weapons research. They're for organ transport. Sarah taps the paper. I know because we use similar systems at St. Mary's. Someone's creating a high-end black market organ trafficking operation. Diana sits back, stunned. Jesus, how many? Based on this equipment, they could process hundreds of donations per month, worth billions on the black market. Sarah's voice remains steady, but her fingers tighten on the paper. That's what Michael found. Not just money laundering, they're building an industrial-scale murder operation. A barista approaches their table, but Diana waves her away with a practiced gesture. Sarah, listen to me. You need to let us handle this. The Bureau? Like you handled protecting Michael? The words come out sharp, cutting. We've got a task force. Protection details, we can... Who's on the task force? Sarah interrupts. What? Names. I want every name of every person who knew about Michael's discovery. Diana hesitates, then understanding dawns. You think there's a leak? I know there's a leak. They knew exactly when to grab him, knew his route. That doesn't happen without inside help. Sarah pulls out her phone, showing Diana the enhanced security footage. Anthony Rossi, Marco's enforcer. This was professional, coordinated. They had help. Even if you're right. Diana leans forward, lowering her voice. Sarah, these people, they're not just criminals. They're connected, protected. You can't just... Watch me. Sarah stands, gathering the documents. One more thing. Michael had a backup drive. Where is it? We haven't found it. Not at his office, not at your house. Sarah nods, unsurprised. Michael was always careful. Too careful, maybe. If she were him, where would she hide something that could get her killed? Outside, the morning sun is breaking through the clouds. Sarah checks her phone. A message from the hospital administration about bereavement leave. They're giving her 2 weeks. More than enough time. Her next stop is a safety deposit box at Boston First National. Not her bank. This account is under her maiden name, set up years ago on her father's advice. Inside is everything she needs. Cash, alternate ID, and a key to a storage unit in Quincy. As she drives to Quincy, her mind catalogs the players. Vincent Rossi, the patriarch. Marco, the brutal enforcer. Anthony, the hands-on killer. And somewhere in the FBI, a traitor who signed Michael's death warrant. The storage unit is small, climate-controlled. Inside, she finds what her father left her. Weapons, ammunition, burner phones. Everything a Hong Kong cop might need if things went bad. Everything his daughter might need to rain hell on the people who destroyed her life. Sarah's phone buzzes. Another text from an unknown number. Last warning, doctor. Chen. Walk away. Live your life. Some questions shouldn't be answered. She smiles, a cold expression that would terrify her hospital colleagues if they saw it. They're right. Dr. Chen has questions that shouldn't be answered. But she's not Dr. Chen anymore. She's her father's daughter, her uncle's student, and she's got some questions for the Rossi family that they're really not going to enjoy answering. The Golden Tiger restaurant's back room smells of incense and old secrets. Uncle Wei sits behind a massive desk of dark wood, his weathered face illuminated by a single lamp. At 73, he's officially retired from both the restaurant business and his other, less legal enterprises. Unofficially, he's still the most connected man in Boston's Chinatown. Little Sarah, he says in Cantonese, gesturing for her to sit. You look like your father when he was angry. Same eyes. I need information, Sarah responds in the same language, remaining standing. About the Rossi family. Dangerous people to ask about. Wei studies her face. More dangerous to answer. Sarah places a thick envelope on his desk. 50,000. For what you know. Wei doesn't touch the money. Your father saved my life in Hong Kong. Your uncle taught my grandson. Money isn't necessary between family. He pauses, weighing his next words. But what you're asking, it will cost you something else, something more valuable. What? Once you know certain things, you can never unknow them. Never go back to being just a doctor, are you sure? Sarah pulls out her phone, showing Wei a crime scene photo of Michael. They took my normal life when they did this. Wei nods slowly. The Rossi, they're expanding. Not just here, all along the coast, but it's not just crime anymore. They're building something bigger. He opens a drawer, removes an old leather-bound ledger. Your husband found part of it, the money, the medical equipment, but he didn't know what it was for. Organ trafficking, Sarah supplies. Yes, but not just that. They're building hospitals, private clinics, places where rich people go to get new hearts, new livers. No questions asked about where they came from. Wei's voice drops lower. But that's just the surface. The real money is in something else, something worse. Sarah leans forward. Tell me. Human experimentation, new drugs, genetic treatments, things too dangerous or illegal to test normally. Their clinics don't just provide organs, they provide test subjects, people who disappear, People no one will miss. A cold fury settles in Sarah's stomach. As a doctor, the idea of medical knowledge built on unwilling victims hits her on a visceral level. Who's running this part? Dr. Elena Rossi, Vincent's daughter, Harvard Medical School, brilliant researcher. On paper, she runs a legitimate pharmaceutical research company. In reality, Wei shrugs. They say she makes Joseph Mengele look like an amateur. Sarah commits the name to memory. I need locations, staff, security details. Better. Wei reaches under his desk, produces a USB drive. Building plans, security schedules, camera layouts, everything you need to get into their main research facility. Sarah takes the drive. How did you get this? Their head of security has a gambling problem and a preference for certain establishments I own. Wei's smile is sharp. Information is always flowing if you know where to look. He pauses. But you'll need more than information. You'll need help. I work alone. No one works alone against the Rossis. Not even you. Wei presses a button on his desk. A door opens, and two people enter. The woman is tall, athletic, with short silver hair. Mei Lin, Wei's granddaughter and one of the best hackers on the East Coast. Sarah remembers her from childhood visits to Hong Kong. The man is a stranger, early 40s, military bearing, a scar running down his left cheek. Jack Morrison, he introduces himself. Former Delta Force. I worked with your husband on a few cases, off the books. Michael never mentioned you. That was the point. Morrison's voice is grave. He contacted me 3 weeks ago. Said he'd found something big. Asked me to be ready if things went bad. And you didn't help him? Sarah's voice carries an edge. I was in Serbia when they got him. Came back as soon as I heard, but... He meets her gaze steadily. I'm here now, and I owe him. Mei Lin steps forward. The Rossis have a digital fortress around their operation, but every fortress has gaps. I've been mapping their network for weeks. Traffic patterns, communication protocols, security rotations. Sarah looks at Wei. You've been preparing for this. Since the moment we heard about Michael. Wei nods. The Rossis think they own this city, think their money and connections make them untouchable, but they forgot something important. What's that? In the old days before fancy security and digital cameras, power came from shadows, from knowing things others didn't, from being able to strike without being seen. Wei's eyes glitter. They think they're modern criminals, but some of us remember the old ways. Sarah looks at Morrison and Mei Lin. Additional players mean additional risks, additional variables, but also additional capabilities. If we do this, she says slowly, we do it my way. No loose ends, no witnesses. And when we find Elena Rossi, she's yours, Morrison agrees. But her operation is bigger than one person. We'll need to take down the whole network. One piece at a time, Mei Lin adds, starting with their data center in South Boston. I can get us in, but the security response time is 3 minutes, maybe 4. Sarah thinks of Michael's backup drive, still hidden somewhere, of the evidence he died protecting, of the people suffering in Elena Rossi's secret clinics. Tomorrow night, she decides. We start with the data center. But first, she turns to Wei. I need one more thing, something only you can provide. Wei raises an eyebrow. And that is a way to make someone disappear, someone who needs to answer some very specific questions about the FBI's task force. Wei's smile grows wider. Now you're thinking like your father's daughter. The midnight corridors of St. Mary's Hospital echo with Sarah's measured footsteps. She moves with practiced ease in her old scrubs, ID badge swinging naturally as she rounds each corner. Security cameras track her progress, all according to plan. This was her domain for 8 years, and every card reader, every blind spot, every maintenance door is mapped in her mind. Security making rounds. Mei Lin's voice comes through the microscopic earpiece. 2 guards approaching from the east wing. They're checking IDs tonight. New protocol. Sarah slips into the doctor's lounge, her movements unhurried. Through the window, she spots Morrison's maintenance van in the parking lot, positioned perfectly between camera zones. How long until they reach this floor? 3 minutes. But that's not all. I'm picking up encrypted radio traffic, non-hospital frequencies. Rossi's people? Has to be. Too professional for local cops, too sloppy for FBI. Sarah's mind races as she enters her old locker combination. Nothing in the locker itself. That would be too obvious. Michael was smarter than that. He would have put it somewhere only she would think to look, somewhere tied to their shared history. The surgical prep room calls to her. How many times had Michael visited her here, bringing coffee during her long shifts? He knew her routines, knew that before every surgery. Movement on the fire stairs, Morrison warns. 4 individuals, armed. They're sweeping systematically. Sarah reaches the prep room, going through her old ritual. Surgical scrub, methodical as always. The movements center her, focus her mind. Her eyes scan the room, everything exactly as she remembers, except the supply cabinet, 3rd shelf, behind the sterile packages. Her fingers find the false backing, cleverly disguised as a routine maintenance panel. Inside, wrapped in sterile packaging, lies a small USB drive. Multiple targets converging, Maylin reports. They're boxing you in. These guys are good. How many? 6 total. 4 on your floor, 2 covering exits. Definitely Rossi's elite team. Sarah pockets the drive, mind already mapping angles, distances, potential weapons. Uncle Chen's voice echoes in her memory. A hospital is full of things that can harm or heal. The difference is merely in how you use them. Sarah, get out of there, Morrison urges. We've got what we came for. No. Her voice is steel. If they're here, they know about the drive. They'll tear this place apart, hurt anyone in their way. There are patients here, people I protected for years. She moves to the door, watching shadows approach through frosted glass. Maylin, is Way's distraction ready? 2 minutes until system breach. Too long. Sarah reaches for the breaker panel. I'm doing this my way. The surgical wing plunges into darkness, emergency lights casting everything in blood-red shadows. Perfect hunting ground for what comes next. The first attacker dies silently, surgical scissors finding the precise spot between vertebrae that her medical training mapped so well. The second falls to a thrown scalpel, the third to a precisely aimed laryngeal strike. Each movement is economical, trained into muscle memory through thousands of repetitions in her uncle's quoon. The fourth man is better trained. He blocks her initial attack, combat stance speaking of military background. Dr. Chen, he growls, weapon raised. The Rossis send their regards. Interesting timing. Her voice is clinically cold. I have some regards to send back. The fight is brutal but brief. He's good. Probably special forces. But Sarah was trained by people who considered modern combat crude and unrefined. The ancient arts of dim mak flow through her movements as she targets pressure points and nerve clusters. He drops, paralyzed but conscious. Your employers, she whispers, kneeling beside him. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what's coming. Suddenly, alarms blare throughout the hospital. Fire alerts, security breaches, all systems cascading into chaos. Way's distraction arriving right on schedule. Sarah, Morrison's voice is urgent. Police bands are lighting up, but there's something else. Chatter about Elena Rossi moving her whole operation tonight. Whatever's on that drive spooked them bad. Sarah makes her way through the panicking crowds, just another staff member during an emergency evacuation. Good. Let them run. The scared ones make mistakes. She reaches the van, sliding in smoothly as Morrison pulls away. Behind them, St. Mary's slowly returns to normal, 4 bodies waiting to be discovered in ways that will tell whatever story the police choose to believe. The drive's encrypted, Maylin reports, already working on the laptop. High-level stuff, but wait, this is interesting. The files decrypt to reveal more than building plans and security protocols. There's a staff list for Elena's clinics, including one name that stops Sarah cold. Dr. James Patterson, Chief of Surgery at St. Mary's, Special Medical Consultant for Renaissance Medical Center. Your boss? Morrison asks. My mentor. Sarah's voice carries death in it. The man who taught me every secret about how the human body works, how it breaks, how it bleeds. Her fingers trace the blood-stained scissors. Time to show him exactly how well I learned those lessons. Dr. James Patterson's penthouse suite occupies the top floor of Boston's exclusive Millennium Tower. At 3 a.m., he sits in his study, phone pressed to his ear, voice tight with controlled panic. She has the drive, Elena. Your team failed. He paces before floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sleeping city. You don't understand what she's capable of. The things her uncle taught her. Through the earpiece, Elena Rossi's voice carries aristocratic disdain. She's just a surgeon, James. A good one, yes, but still just a doctor who cuts people open. No. Patterson's free hand trembles as he pours another scotch. I've watched her work for 8 years. The precision, the focus, it's not just medical training. When she operates, it's like watching a martial artist. Every movement exact, lethal in its efficiency. Then perhaps you should have warned us before we dealt with her husband. Patterson downs the scotch in one gulp. I told Marco it was a mistake. Michael was a problem, yes, but killing him. She loved him. Really loved him. Do you have any idea what that kind of love becomes when it turns to hate? A soft click behind him freezes Patterson mid-step. Sarah Chen sits in his leather armchair, partially hidden in shadow. Why don't you tell her, James? Tell Elena exactly what that kind of hate feels like. Patterson's phone slips from nerveless fingers. Sarah, I can explain. Explain what? Her voice is conversational, almost friendly. How you helped them track Michael's movements. How you scheduled my surgeries to make sure I couldn't be there when they took him. Or maybe explain these. She holds up a tablet, displaying medical records. Hundreds of them, all bearing Patterson's signature. Authorizations for experimental procedures at Renaissance Medical Center. They were going to expose everything. Patterson's words tumble out. The private surgeries, the kickbacks, all of it. Elena offered a way out, just information, patient schedules, staff rotations, nothing that would hurt anyone. Nothing that would hurt anyone? Sarah's laugh is cold. Tell that to Jessica Carter. 16 years old, stage 3 leukemia. You signed her transfer to Renaissance 3 months ago. Want to see what Elena's clinical trials did to her? The tablet displays new images, medical photographs that make Patterson's gorge rise. I didn't know. 8 years. Sarah's voice hardens. 8 years I looked up to you, trusted you, learned from you. And all that time you were helping them perfect their torture chambers, helping them figure out exactly how much suffering the human body can take. Sarah, please, I can help you. I know things about Elena's operation, about where they're moving everything tonight. The Brookline facility, the underground labs, the security protocols. Sarah rises smoothly. Already know all that, but thanks for confirming it. Patterson lunges for his desk drawer, but Sarah is faster. The scissors, the same ones from the hospital, flash once in the dim light. Patterson looks down at his hand, pinned to the mahogany desktop, surgical steel driven through his palm with medical precision. You taught me about nerve clusters, Sarah says softly, about how to avoid them during surgery. But Uncle Chen taught me something else, how to find them, how to use them. Her fingers dance across Patterson's arm, hitting specific points. His entire right side goes numb, then explodes in agony. Please, he gasps. I'm not going to kill you, James. Sarah's voice remains clinical, detached. That would be too easy. Instead, I'm going to do what you taught me. Fix what's broken. From her bag, she removes a syringe. This is from Elena's lab, one of her experimental compounds, the ones you helped her perfect. It won't kill you either, but it will make you experience everything those test subjects felt. Every injection, every procedure, every moment of agony, all compressed into one very educational night. You took an oath. Patterson whispers. Do no harm. That oath died with my husband. Sarah administers the injection with professional expertise. But don't worry, I'll make sure you survive the experience. After all, what kind of student would I be if I didn't show you exactly how well I learned your lessons about keeping patients alive? She steps back, watching as the drug begins to take effect. One more thing. Elena's watching this right now, isn't she? Through your security cameras? Patterson's eyes widen in understanding just as the first wave of pain hits. Sarah looks directly into the hidden camera she spotted earlier. Hello, Elena. Consider this a preview. A little demonstration of what's coming for you and your entire operation. Michael found your secrets. Now I'm going to make you face them. 1. Body. Address A. Time. She leaves Patterson writhing on his imported carpet, his agonized screams muffled by the penthouse's expensive soundproofing. In the elevator, she sends a text to Morrison. Patterson's dealt with. Have Mei Lin monitor ambulance dispatches. When they find him, I want to know which hospital they take him to. Her phone buzzes with a response from an unknown number. Impressive work, Doctor. Chen. But are you ready for what comes next? Elena's pets aren't as gentle as your old mentor. Sarah smiles. They still think this is about revenge. They don't understand yet. This isn't about vengeance anymore. This is surgery. Precise, methodical removal of a cancer that's infected her city. And Sarah Chen has always been a very, very good surgeon. The Renaissance Medical Center rises like a modernist fortress in Brookline's affluent medical district. At midnight, its white walls glow under spotlights, the picture of legitimate healthcare. But Sarah, watching through high-powered binoculars from a neighboring building, sees what others miss. The extra security, the reinforced windows, the carefully hidden weapons of the maintenance staff. Mei Lin, what do we have? Sarah's voice is low, measured. 3 subterranean levels not on any official blueprints. Mei Lin's fingers dance across her laptop. Power consumption's off the charts, way more than a normal hospital needs. And the patient logs. People check in, but they don't check out, at least not officially. Morrison adjusts his tactical gear. Guards change every 4 hours. Next rotation in 20 minutes. Security's been doubled since Patterson's incident. Good. Sarah checks her medical bag, not filled with healing tools tonight. They're scared. Scared people make mistakes. We've got movement, Mei Lin reports. Loading dock. They're bringing someone in. Through the binoculars, Sarah watches an ambulance back up to a secure entrance. The paramedics wear legitimate uniforms, but their movements are wrong. Too practiced, too military. They unload a gurney carrying a sedated teenage girl. Another volunteer for Elena's experiments, Morrison growls. No. Sarah's grip tightens on the binoculars. That's Jessica Carter, Agent Carter's daughter. They're moving their test subjects here. Makes sense, Mei Lin adds. After Patterson, Elena's consolidating everything in one secure location. Easier to protect. Easier to trap. Sarah's mind races through the blueprint she memorized. How many test subjects total? According to the power usage and medical supply orders, at least 30, maybe more. Sarah watches Jessica disappear into the building. Change of plans. We're not just gathering evidence anymore. We're getting those people out. That's impossible, Morrison protests. Even with the 3 of us. 4. Wei's voice comes through their comms. My people are in position. Just say when. Sarah allows herself a small smile. Uncle Wei's retirement apparently includes maintaining a small army of very skilled individuals. Mei Lin, kill the power in sectors 3 through 7. Morrison, take Wei's team and create a distraction at the main entrance. Big, loud, messy. Sarah checks her watch. I'll go in through the maintenance shaft. Elena's office is on the 2nd floor. She'll be there. How do you know? Because she's exactly like Patterson. She'll want to watch, want to feel in control. Sarah's voice carries absolute certainty. And she'll have contingency plans. Probably a self-destruct system to eliminate evidence if things go wrong. If you're right, Morrison warns, We'll have less than 5 minutes once the alarms go off. 5 minutes is an eternity in surgery. Sarah moves toward the maintenance entrance. And tonight I'm performing a very special operation. The first part goes perfectly. Maylin's blackout plunges key sections into darkness. Morrison and Wei's team create havoc at the main entrance, something involving smoke grenades and what sounds like a small army trying to breach the front. Sarah moves through dark corridors like a ghost, Uncle Chen's training making her footsteps silent. 2 guards die before they realize she's there. A third manages to raise his weapon before precise strikes to nerve clusters leave him paralyzed. She finds the test subjects in the sublevels, just as the blueprints showed. Dozens of them hooked to machines, bodies marked with surgical scars. Jessica Carter is there, still groggy from sedation. Get them out, Sarah orders Wei's people. Through the tunnel system. Mei Lin has ambulances waiting. And Elena? Morrison asks through the comm. She's mine. Sarah climbs to the 2nd floor, where Elena Rossi's office overlooks her kingdom of pain. The door is locked, but only electronically. With the power out, it takes seconds to bypass. Elena sits behind her desk, calm despite the chaos below. She's beautiful in a cold way, her surgeon's hands perfectly manicured, her white coat spotless. Dr. Chen. Her voice carries a hint of Italian accent. I wondered when you'd find us. This ends tonight. Does it? Elena gestures to her laptop. 1 click and this building's emergency protocols activate. Nerve gas in the ventilation system. Everyone dies, including your rescuers, your test subjects, everyone. Are you ready to have more blood on your hands? Sarah moves with surgical precision. The scissors, Patterson's scissors, flash once. Elena's hand spasms, tendons severed with expert accuracy. Interesting fact about nerve gas, Sarah says conversationally. It only works if the ventilation system has power. For the first time, fear crosses Elena's perfect features. Now, Sarah continues, let me show you what I learned from studying your research files. All those experiments on pain thresholds, very educational, especially when combined with certain ancient Chinese techniques for prolonging consciousness. Outside, sirens wail as Wei's ambulances spirit the test subjects to safety. But in Elena's office, behind soundproofed walls, Sarah Chen prepares to conduct one final experiment in the name of medical science. Vincent Rossi sits in his penthouse office, watching multiple screens display the chaos at Renaissance Medical Center. His face remains impassive, but his knuckles whiten around his crystal whiskey glass as he watches the facility's security feeds go dark one by one. Find her, he barks into his phone. Find my daughter. Marco Rossi paces behind his father's desk, fury radiating from every movement. Our teams are dead or scattered. Wei's people hit the front while Chen came in through the tunnels. Professional job. They knew exactly where to strike. And Elena? Marco hesitates. No sign. Communications went dark after she reported Chen breaching her office. Vincent hurls his glass against the wall. How? How did one grieving widow dismantle everything we built? Because you underestimated her. The voice comes from the shadows near the private elevator. Sarah Chen steps into the light, still wearing surgical scrubs stained with fresh blood. Just like you underestimated Michael. A dozen guards materialize, weapons drawn. Vincent raises a hand, stopping them from firing. Dr. Chen. I'm impressed. Not many people could reach this floor. Your security's good, Sarah acknowledges. But they have one weakness. They're still alive. Elena's research files showed exactly where to strike to incapacitate without killing. Very thorough data. Your daughter was nothing if not meticulous in her documentation. Where is she? Vincent's voice carries deadly promise. Alive. Experiencing the results of her own research. Don't worry. I made sure she'll survive. She deserves to live with what she's done, just like Patterson. Marco moves toward her, but Vincent stops him. Why are you here, Doctor? Chen? You've destroyed our medical operation, freed our test subjects, taken my daughter. Why not disappear? Because this was never just about revenge. Sarah's eyes are cold. This is about surgery, removing a cancer from my city, and you, Vincent Rossi, are the primary tumor. Vincent actually laughs. And you think you can just walk in here and remove me? I own this city. Judges, politicians, police. All compromised by evidence Michael gathered. Evidence I've spent the last week releasing to every major news outlet and federal agency. Your protection is gone, Vincent. Your empire is falling. I'm just here to complete the operation. Kill me and 100 others will take my place. Kill you? Sarah shakes her head. Number death is too easy. You're going to live. Live to see everything you built crumble. Live to watch your name become poison in this city. Live to see Elena face trial for her crimes. Because yes, she will testify. Amazing what people will confess when subjected to their own experimental procedures. Marco lunges forward. Sarah moves with liquid grace, and suddenly Marco is on his knees, gasping as precision strikes paralyze key muscle groups. As for your soldiers, Sarah glances at the guards. Check your phones. Check what's happening to your family's secret accounts. Everything you thought was protected, hidden, safe. It's all gone. Maylene is very good at what she does. The guards' phones buzz simultaneously. Sarah continues. You have a choice. Leave now. Walk away with what little you have left, or stay and lose everything. Because Vincent here can't protect you anymore. Can't pay you. Can't guarantee your family's safety. One by one, the guards lower their weapons. Begin to back away. Stop, Vincent commands. I'll double your pay. Triple it. With what money? Sarah's smile is razor sharp. Your accounts are frozen. Your property's seized. Your political friends are scrambling to save themselves. You have nothing left to offer. The elevator doors open. The guards file in silently, leaving Vincent and his son alone with Sarah. You think this is justice? Vincent snarls. Number, this is surgery. Precise. Clinical. Complete. Sarah moves closer. But since you mentioned justice, Marco, would you like to explain to your father why all this really happened? Why Michael had to die? Marco's eyes widen in understanding and fear. You see, Vincent, your son here had a particular taste for certain types of entertainment. Entertainment that Elena's facilities provided. Michael didn't just find evidence of medical experiments. He found Marco's special requests, the ones even you didn't know about. Vincent turns to his son in horror. Marco? I had urges. Elena said she could help. Said the test subjects were going to die anyway. And that, Sarah continues, is why Michael had to die immediately. Not because he found your financial records or your medical experiments, but because Marco here couldn't risk his father learning what he really was. Vincent's face contorts with rage and disgust. He reaches for a hidden drawer, but Sarah is faster. 2 precise strikes and both father and son slump in their chairs, paralyzed but conscious. The police will be here soon. They'll find Elena's files. All of them. And you'll both live long, long lives in maximum security, knowing exactly why you lost everything. Sarah walks to the elevator, then pauses. Oh, and Vincent? Michael wanted you to know. The evidence he gathered? It wasn't about bringing you to justice. It was about saving your soul. He thought if you knew what was really happening in your organization, you'd stop it yourself. He believed there was still good in you. She steps into the elevator. He was wrong. 1 week after the fall of the Rossi Empire, Sarah stands in front of Michael's grave. The autumn wind rustles through nearby trees, carrying the first hint of winter. The cemetery is empty, except for an elderly groundskeeper in the distance, methodically tending to the endless rows of stones. Sarah places fresh flowers beside the headstone, her movements precise and measured, just like everything else she does. It's done, she says softly. All of it. Though I doubt this was what your father had in mind when he insisted I become a doctor. A slight smile touches her lips, remembering old arguments. He wanted me to leave the old ways behind. Start fresh. But you understood, didn't you? Understood why Uncle Chen kept training me even after I started medical school. Behind her, leaves crunch under careful footsteps as Diana Rodriguez approaches. The FBI agent looks tired, dark circles under her eyes testament to endless hours processing the aftermath of the Rossi Empire's collapse. The FBI just finished processing Elena's files, Diana reports. 37 victims identified so far, all alive, all recovering. 20 in critical condition but responding to treatment. The evidence is overwhelming. The Rossis, Patterson, everyone involved is going away for life. 6 hospitals have been shut down, their secret facilities exposed. And the staff? The ones who helped Elena? Most are cooperating, trying to save themselves. The things they're revealing. Diana shudders. It goes deeper than we imagined. International connections, other facilities across Europe and Asia. We've got Interpol involved now. And the FBI's internal investigation? 12 agents indicted for corruption. More resignations coming daily. The director himself might step down. Carter turned state's evidence. He'll get witness protection with his daughter. Jessica's responding well to proper treatment, by the way. Real treatment, not Elena's experiments. Diana pauses, choosing her next words carefully. They're offering you immunity, full protection, new identity if you want it. After what you did, there are people who might seek revenge. Sarah traces Michael's name on the stone, remembering their last morning together. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home, my city. Sarah. Diana steps closer. There are still people out there. Not everyone connected to the Rossis has been caught. Some of their international partners are asking questions, making threats. Let them come. Sarah's voice carries absolute certainty. This is my city now, my hospital, my rules. Besides, I've got help. As if on cue, Morrison's van pulls up to the cemetery gate. Mei Lin sits in the passenger seat, laptop open, monitoring police frequencies and hospital communications. Through the tinted windows, Sarah spots Wei himself in the back, his presence a reminder that Uncle Chen's teachings live on through more than just her. Speaking of the hospital, Diana continues, the board met yesterday. They're offering you back your old position, chief of surgery actually, now that Patterson's unavailable. His hands may recover enough for basic tasks eventually, though operating again. She leaves the sentence unfinished. Sarah finally turns to face her. And how many of them know? About what I did? Officially? Nothing. Unofficially. Diana shrugs. Let's just say no one's going to question your authority. Your reputation has evolved. The staff whisper about you. Some in fear, some in awe. They say you're different now, that you can see things in people, weakness, sickness, corruption. A ghost of a smile crosses Sarah's face. The whispers have already started, about the surgeon who dismantled a criminal empire, about the doctor whose healing hands can also deal death. The legend is growing, becoming something that will help protect what she fought to save. There's something else, Diana adds, reaching into her jacket. We found this in Michael's office safe. She hands Sarah a sealed envelope, slightly yellowed with age. It's dated 2 days before they took him. Sarah opens it carefully, her surgical precision evident even in this simple task. Inside is a letter and a key that gleams dully in the autumn light. My dearest Sarah, she reads aloud, voice steady despite the emotion brewing beneath. If you're reading this, then I didn't make it, but I know you. Know what you'll do. Know that the skills your father and uncle taught you weren't just about protection. They were preparation for this moment, for what you'll become. She pauses, composing herself before continuing. The key opens a storage unit. Everything I found, everything I couldn't risk keeping at home or the office. Files, recordings, names. Use it wisely. And remember, what you'll do isn't just revenge, it's surgery. Removing the cancer that's killing our city. I love you. Always will. Michael. He knew. Diana says softly. Knew what would happen, what you would do. Maybe even knew you were meant for something bigger than just saving lives one operation at a time. He knew me better than anyone. Sarah pockets the key, its weight a promise of more work to come. The storage unit? Secure. We've had it under surveillance, no one's been near it. Sarah's phone buzzes. A message from Mei Lin. Movement at the docks. Rossi's old associates trying to rebuild. Meeting tonight. 20+ players, international connections. They're planning something big. Duty calls? Diana asks, noting Sarah's expression. The city's still sick, still needs healing. Sarah starts walking toward Morrison's van. Different kind of healing than before, but healing nonetheless. The cancer may be gone, but the risk of metastasis remains. Sarah. Diana's voice stops her. What you did, to Elena, to Patterson, was it worth it? Did it bring you peace? Sarah looks back at Michael's grave one last time, remembering his smile, his laugh, his unwavering belief in justice. It was never about peace. It was about making sure no one else loses what I lost, about protecting my city the only way I know how. She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Besides, a surgeon's work is never done. There's always another operation waiting. Diana watches her go, remembering the dedicated doctor she used to know. That woman isn't completely gone, she realizes. She's just evolved into something else, something that Boston's underworld will learn to fear. A healer who knows exactly how to hurt, a protector who understands precisely where to cut. The abandoned fish market at Boston Harbor reeks of old decay and new treachery. Through high-powered binoculars, Sarah watches as expensive cars arrive, carrying what remains of the East Coast's criminal elite. They've come to fill the power vacuum left by the Rossi's fall, like bacteria swarming a wound. 28 targets identified, Mei Lin reports from her mobile command center in the van. Representatives from New York, Philadelphia, Miami. Some faces I don't recognize, probably European syndicates. Morrison checks his weapons with practiced efficiency. Wei's people are in position. We can seal all exits on your command. Sarah studies the gathering through her binoculars. Old men in expensive suits, young enforcers with barely concealed weapons, all here to carve up her city like a corpse on a table. Any sign of our special guest? She asks. Confirmed. Mei Lin brings up thermal imaging. 3rd floor office, 4 guards. He's been there an hour already. James Patterson. Out of the hospital barely a week, and already trying to sell his services to the highest bidder. Offering inside knowledge of hospital operations, medical expertise, everything Elena Rossi had used to build her empire of pain. Remember, Sarah's voice is cold. No one leaves. This isn't just about stopping their plans. This is about sending a message. My city is not for sale. Her phone buzzes. Diana with a warning. FBI raid planned for midnight. Get out before then. Sarah checks her watch. 2 hours, more than enough time. Mei Lin, kill the power. Morrison, signal Wei. Let's begin. The fish market plunges into darkness. Sarah moves like a shadow, her black clothing blending with the night. The first 2 guards die silently, precise strikes shutting down vital organs. They'll be found later, no marks, no evidence, just unexplained cardiac arrests. Inside, panic spreads as Wei's people seal the exits. Gunfire erupts, but it's sporadic, undisciplined. These men are used to being the predators, not the prey. Sarah makes her way up floor by floor. Each level becomes a lesson in applied anatomy. A Yakuza enforcer learns how pressure points can paralyze. A Russian mobster discovers what happens when specific nerves are severed. Their screams serve as warnings to others, creating more panic, more chaos. Through her earpiece, she hears the operation unfold. Wei's people are efficient, herding their targets like cattle to slaughter. But Sarah's focus is upward, toward the office where Patterson cowers. She finds him trying to escape through a window. His hands, still healing from their last encounter, fumble with the latch. Going somewhere, James. He spins, face pale. Sarah, please. I can explain. I was going to warn them away. Tell them to leave Boston alone. While offering them your services? She steps closer. Teaching them what Elena taught you about turning hospitals into torture chambers? No. They threatened me. Said if I didn't help. You always have excuses, don't you? Sarah's voice carries genuine curiosity. Always a reason why you had to betray everything you swore to protect. I wonder, did you have an excuse ready the day Michael died? Something to help you sleep at night? Patterson backs away until he hits the wall. What are you going to do? Nothing. Sarah smiles. I'm going to let you walk out of here. Let you live. But first, she moves with surgical precision, hands striking specific points on his chest and arms. Patterson gasps, clutches his chest. What? What did you do? Pressure points. Very specific ones. Your hands will never be steady again. Your surgical career is over. But don't worry, you'll live a long, long time. Long enough to watch everything you built crumble. Just like you watched Michael die. Below, the gunfire has stopped. Sarah's phone buzzes. Messages from Morrison and Way confirming total success. 28 targets neutralized. Some dead, some wishing they were. All of them learning the same lesson. Boston is under new management. When they find you, Sarah tells Patterson, tell them what happened here. Tell them about the surgeon who knows where to cut. Tell them this city has a new protector. She leaves him there, shaking, as police sirens begin to wail in the distance. Right on schedule. Outside, Morrison waits with the van. FBI's coming. We should go. Not yet. Sarah watches as black SUVs approach. One last thing. Diana finds her waiting in the shadows. You shouldn't be here when the raid starts. Had to make sure you got my gift. Sarah hands her a USB drive. Everything Patterson was going to sell them. Names, accounts, operations across 3 continents. Enough to keep the FBI busy for years. Diana takes the drive. The body's upstairs. The survivors will talk. Let them spread the word. Let every criminal organization know what happens when they try to operate in my city. Your city? Diana's voice carries a warning. Be careful, Sarah. People might start thinking you're becoming something else. Something worse than what you fought. No. Sarah's smile is cold, but certain. I'm exactly what this city needs. A surgeon who knows how to cut out the disease. A doctor who understands that sometimes healing requires ruthlessness. She walks away as the FBI teams begin their raid. Behind her, Patterson's broken voice carries on the wind, telling his story to anyone who will listen. The legend grows, spreading through underworld channels like a virus. Boston has a new guardian, a surgeon whose skills extend far beyond the operating room, a healer who knows exactly how to hurt. 6 months after the night at the fish market, St. Mary's Hospital bustles with its usual activity. In her office, Dr. Sarah Chen reviews patient files, her new position as chief of surgery bringing both authority and responsibility. The wall behind her desk holds 2 items, her medical degree and a framed photo of Michael. A knock at the door interrupts her work. Diana Rodriguez enters, looking official in her newly appointed FBI task force uniform. Thought you'd want to know, Diana begins, settling into a chair. Elena Rossi started talking. The treatments they were testing, it's worse than we imagined. Government contracts, military applications. They weren't just torturing people, they were trying to create something. And Vincent? Sarah's voice remains clinical, professional. Found dead in his cell this morning. Natural causes. Diana makes air quotes. Marco confessed to everything, trying to save himself. He'll never see daylight again. Sarah nods, unsurprised. The underworld has its own justice, its own way of dealing with those who betray their own. The streets are quieter now, Diana continues. Every major criminal organization has declared Boston off limits. The stories about you, they've taken on a life of their own. The surgeon who can kill with a touch. The doctor who knows death's secrets. Good. Sarah stands, walking to her window. Below, ambulances arrive and depart, carrying their cargo of hope and desperation. Fear can be a powerful medicine. That's what worries me. Diana joins her at the window. The power you've gained, the influence, it changes people. Sarah turns to face her friend. I'm not interested in power, Diana. Only in protecting what's mine. My city, my hospital, my patients. Her phone buzzes. A message from Mei Lin. Problem at the docks. New players trying to establish territory. Speaking of protection, Diana notices Sarah's expression. Another house call to make? Cancer requires constant vigilance. Sarah picks up her bag, not the one containing surgical tools. Even after remission, you have to watch for recurring symptoms. The FBI can handle... No. Sarah's voice is firm. The FBI handles what it can see. The obvious crimes, the surface tumors. But some diseases hide deeper, require a specialist's touch. Diana sighs, recognizing the futility of argument. Just be careful. Power corrupts, and you've got more power now than you realize. Power doesn't corrupt, Diana. It reveals, shows who we really are. Sarah checks her watch. Michael knew that, knew what I would become when he left me that letter. Not just a surgeon, not just a vigilante, something else, something necessary. Morrison's van waits in the hospital's underground parking. Wei sits in the back, his aged face serene as he reviews intelligence reports from his network. You've changed this city, he tells Sarah as she enters. Made it safer, cleaner. Not enough. Sarah checks the specialized tools in her bag. There's always another disease to fight, another infection to cure. Her phone buzzes again, a message from one of Patterson's former patients, now working as her informant. They're bringing in drugs, using kids as mules. Please help. Sarah's jaw tightens. Some crimes are unforgivable. You know, Wei observes, your uncle would be proud. He always said true healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. Sometimes you have to remove what causes the break. The van moves through Boston's streets as night falls. Sarah thinks about Michael, about the path that led her here, about how saving lives sometimes requires taking them. In her pocket, she carries two things, her surgical ID and the scissors that started it all. Tools of healing and hurting, perfectly balanced, just like her. Your father wanted you to be a doctor, Wei continues. Your uncle trained you to be a warrior, but you've become something more, something unique. Sarah watches her city pass by, seeing both its beauty and its sickness. I've become what Boston needs, a surgeon who understands that healing isn't always gentle, that sometimes the cure requires a harsh hand. The van stops near the docks. Through the window, Sarah sees young teenagers being led into warehouses, carrying packages. More souls to save, more cancer to cut out. She steps into the night, moving like a shadow. Behind her, Wei's people spread out. Morrison takes position. The operation begins. Boston has changed. The underworld whispers about the surgeon who guards it, the doctor whose healing touch can also bring death, the protector who keeps the city's heart beating by removing those who would poison it. Sarah Chen remembers taking the Hippocratic Oath, promising to do no harm. But as Michael understood, sometimes preventing harm requires decisive action, requires a skilled hand and an unwavering determination to cut out the disease before it spreads. The night belongs to her now. And somewhere in the space between healing and hurting, between mercy and justice, a surgeon continues her most important work, operating on the soul of a city, one incision at a time. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.